Everything was going great. She was texting first. She seemed excited to see you. The connection felt real, strong, different. Then suddenly, she pulled away. No explanation, no obvious reason. And that's where most men make a huge mistake. They assume they know why. They tell themselves a story that often has nothing to do with reality. But what if the real reason she pulls away when things get good is completely different from what you've been told? What if the real reason she pulls away when things get good isn't about losing attraction at all? In this video, you're going to discover a deeper psychological truth that most men never understand. And once you see it, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we dive deep into psychology, relationships, attraction, and the truths most people never talk about. And if you enjoy this kind of content, help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers by joining the community today. Topic 1. When things stop being casual. There's a fascinating moment that happens in a lot of relationships. In the beginning, everything feels easy. The texts flow naturally, the dates are fun, and neither person is thinking too far ahead. It's like watching a movie without knowing how it ends and simply enjoying the ride. But at some point, something changes. She starts realizing that this guy isn't just someone interesting to spend time with. He could become someone who truly matters in her life. And that's exactly when things often start getting more complicated. Most men assume that distance shows up when interest starts fading. But in many cases, the opposite is true. When a connection begins to feel real, it stops being just a pleasant experience and starts involving emotional risk. Think about someone wading into the ocean up to their knees. It's fun. It feels safe. But as the water gets deeper, they naturally become more cautious. Not because they hate the ocean, but because now there's something to lose. Relationships work in much the same way. A man might notice that everything seemed to be moving in the right direction. The conversations were getting deeper, the dates more frequent, and the signs more positive. Then out of nowhere, she starts taking longer to reply, seems more distant, or begins acting differently. What many men fail to see is that this behavior doesn't always come from a lack of interest. Sometimes, it's the exact moment she realizes that this connection has the power to affect her emotionally in a very real way. And when that realization hits, a new battle quietly begins inside her, a battle that most men never even notice. Topic 2. The emotional cost of vulnerability. There's one word that rarely comes up in conversations about attraction, yet it explains a huge amount of human behavior in relationships: vulnerability. In the beginning, when everything is still surface level, there's a certain amount of emotional protection in place. Nobody is fully invested yet. But as the connection grows, those defenses slowly start coming down. And for some women, that can be a lot more frightening than most men realize. After all, the more important someone becomes, the more power they have to hurt you. Many men think confidence means not feeling fear. In reality, it's often the opposite. People usually feel the most fear when something truly matters. Imagine putting a few dollars into a random game. If you lose, no big deal. Now imagine investing your entire life savings. Suddenly the emotions are completely different. Relationships follow a similar pattern. The moment she realizes that a man could hold an important place in her heart, the emotional risk stops being theoretical. It becomes real. That's why some behaviors can seem so contradictory. She may enjoy being around him, feel attracted to him, admire who he is, and at the same time feel an unexpected urge to create distance. Not because she wants to end the connection, but because part of her is trying to figure out whether it's safe to keep moving forward. And what's even more interesting is that this reaction doesn't always come from the present moment. More often than not, it's connected to experiences that happened long before he ever entered her life. And that's where the story starts getting even deeper. Topic 3. The fear of reliving old wounds. There's an old saying that once someone gets burned, they become afraid of fire. The problem is that in relationships, the brain often can't tell the difference between a raging fire and a tiny candle flame. When someone has gone through deep heartbreak, an unexpected betrayal, or a relationship that ended in pain, part of that experience remains emotionally stored away. Even years later, those memories can quietly influence decisions without the person even realizing it. And suddenly, a lot of confusing behavior starts making sense. The human brain has one simple job: protect. It's constantly scanning for threats, trying to prevent painful experiences from happening again. That's why some people walk away from promising relationships, create distance when they start falling in love, or begin finding flaws that didn't seem to exist before. To an outside observer, it may look irrational, but to the person experiencing it, it feels perfectly logical. Part of her may be thinking, what if I let myself fall for him and end up getting hurt again? And surprisingly, that question can carry more weight than all the positive feelings she's developing. You may have seen this happen before. Everything seems to be moving in the right direction, and then suddenly she starts acting differently. One day she's showing interest. The next day she seems distant. One day she's talking about the future. The next day she's creating space between the two of you. What many men interpret as a lack of interest may actually be an internal conflict between the desire to move forward and the fear of repeating a painful chapter from her past. But there's an even more surprising layer to all of this. In some cases, the real problem isn't the fear of pain at all. It's the fear of what might happen if everything actually works out. Topic 4. The battle between safety and excitement. Here's a truth that many people don't like to admit. Not everyone feels comfortable when they finally find emotional stability. It sounds strange, I know. After all, most people say they want a healthy relationship, a trustworthy partner, and a genuine connection. But human beings aren't always drawn to what's healthy. More often than not, they're drawn to what feels familiar. And for some women, especially those who grew up surrounded by unstable relationships, chaos can feel more familiar than peace. Think about someone who spent years riding an emotional roller coaster. Relationships full of uncertainty, mixed signals, sudden disappearances, and dramatic reconciliations. Over time, the brain starts associating those intense emotions with passion. So when a consistent, predictable, emotionally secure man comes along, something unexpected happens. Instead of feeling immediate relief, she may feel uncomfortable. Not because there's anything wrong with him, but because the dynamic doesn't trigger the emotional pattern she has grown used to throughout her life. This is where many women begin fighting a silent battle inside themselves. One part of them recognizes that they may have finally found something healthy. Another part still craves the emotional intensity they've always mistaken for love. And while that internal conflict is unfolding, the man usually interprets the distance in the most obvious way possible. He assumes he did something wrong. What he doesn't realize is that, in many cases, the problem has nothing to do with him. In fact, the biggest battle may not be happening between the two of them at all. It may be happening entirely inside her mind. And understanding that changes the way a man should view the situation completely. Topic 5. She isn't fighting against you. When a woman starts pulling away, many men immediately go into investigation mode. They revisit old messages, replay conversations in their heads, and try to pinpoint the exact moment when everything changed. The mind starts searching for answers and almost always lands on the same conclusion: I must have done something wrong. It's an understandable reaction. After all, when something valuable seems to be slipping away, our natural instinct is to look for someone to blame. But what many men don't realize is that this conclusion is often rushed. The truth is that not every emotional withdrawal is a reaction to someone else's behavior. Sometimes she's trying to make sense of feelings she can't fully explain herself. It's like driving down a road covered in thick fog. You know there's a path ahead, but you can't see much beyond the next few feet. In situations like that, pulling back isn't always a sign of rejection. Sometimes it's simply an attempt to gain emotional clarity. The problem is that from the outside, all you see is silence. And silence has a way of letting the imagination run wild. That's exactly where many men fall into a dangerous trap. They turn uncertainty into a negative story about themselves. They start believing they weren't interesting enough, attractive enough, or important enough. But reality is usually far more complicated than that. In many cases, the main battle isn't happening between him and her. It's happening between her and her own fears, doubts, and internal conflicts. And the most interesting part is that the way a man reacts during this moment can determine whether the situation improves or whether he ends up pushing her even farther away. Topic 6. The mistake that pushes her even farther away. When distance starts to appear, many men go into high alert. Suddenly, every text takes too long. Every reply feels colder than before. Every change in behavior looks like a warning sign. And without even realizing it, they begin acting from a place of fear. They send more messages than usual, look for immediate explanations, or try desperately to restore the connection they feel is slipping away. The problem is that while this reaction is completely human, it often creates the exact opposite result. Imagine trying to hold sand in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. Relationships often work the same way. When a woman is dealing with doubt, emotional pressure, or internal conflict, feeling like someone is forcing answers out of her can increase her need for space. Not because she's cold or uncaring, but because human beings naturally resist when they feel their emotional freedom is being threatened. And that applies to both men and women. This is where many men confuse action with effectiveness. They believe they need to do something immediately to save the situation. But emotional maturity doesn't always mean taking action. Sometimes it means tolerating uncertainty without panicking. It means understanding that your personal value is not determined by how quickly someone responds to a text message, and above all, it means refusing to turn her distance into your own emotional emergency. Because there is a huge difference between a man seeking connection and a man seeking validation. And that difference becomes incredibly obvious during moments of pressure. Topic 7. What emotionally strong men do differently. There is one trait that separates emotionally strong men from those who become prisoners of other people's approval. It's not looks, money, or status. It's the ability to stay centered even when they don't have all the answers. When a woman starts pulling away, many men feel an almost irresistible urge to fix the situation immediately. They believe they need to regain control. But emotionally mature men understand something important. Not every uncertainty needs to be solved right away. Some situations require patience, not pursuit. That doesn't mean acting cold or pretending not to care. In fact, it means the exact opposite. It means continuing to be the man he was before that relationship entered his life. He stays focused on his goals, his friendships, his work, his hobbies, and his personal growth. He doesn't make one person the center of his entire emotional universe. Think about someone who invests all of their happiness into a single stock. Every fluctuation creates panic. But someone with a solid foundation can handle periods of instability without losing balance. Relationships work in a very similar way. Interestingly, this mindset often produces an effect many men never expect. When someone projects emotional security, it reduces pressure on the relationship. There's no constant neediness, no endless demands, and no silent desperation for validation. And that creates room for genuine feelings to emerge naturally. But the biggest benefit isn't saving one specific relationship. It's something much greater. A man who learns to maintain his identity during uncertain times develops a strength that very few people ever build. And that strength completely changes how he interprets any distance he may face in the future. Which brings us to the final truth most men never understand. Topic 8. The truth most men never understand. After everything we've covered so far, we've arrived at the most important point in this video. Most men view a woman's distance in black and white terms. Either she's interested or she isn't. Either she wants to stay or she wants to leave. But human beings rarely work that way. Emotions are messy, feelings can exist alongside fear. Interest can coexist with insecurity, and someone can feel a genuine connection while simultaneously struggling with doubts they can't fully explain. It's this complexity that causes so many men to misunderstand what's really happening. Does that mean every woman who pulls away is still interested? Of course not. Some women genuinely lose interest. Some discover incompatibilities. Some simply choose a different path. But the biggest mistake is automatically assuming that distance equals rejection. The reality is that, in many cases, pulling away reveals more than just what she feels. It reveals how she handles vulnerability, uncertainty, and deep emotions. And understanding that distinction changes a man's entire response. Instead of panicking, he starts observing. Instead of desperately chasing answers, he learns to see the bigger picture. And maybe the biggest lesson isn't about her at all. Maybe it's about you. Because in the end, the most important question was never, why is she pulling away? The most important question is, who do you become when someone pulls away from you? Do you lose confidence? Abandon your goals? Start measuring your worth by someone else's attention? Or do you remain a grounded, confident man who knows his value regardless of the outcome? When a man learns that lesson, something powerful happens. He stops trying to control connections and starts building healthier relationships. And ironically, that's exactly when he becomes far more attractive to anyone who enters his life. Conclusion. So the next time a woman pulls away when things seem to be going well, don't rush to assume the worst. Don't immediately tell yourself that you're not good enough, attractive enough, or worthy enough. Instead, take a step back and ask a better question. What can this situation teach you about yourself? Because at the end of the day, the strongest men aren't the ones who never face uncertainty. They're the ones who stay grounded when uncertainty shows up. Think about it. How do you usually react when someone starts creating distance? Do you chase? Do you panic? Or do you stay calm and keep moving forward with your life? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had a woman pull away when everything seemed perfect? What do you think was really going on? And most importantly, what lesson did you learn from it? If you enjoyed this video and want more deep insights into psychology, relationships, attraction, and personal growth, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. We're currently working toward our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and every new subscriber helps us reach more men who want to build stronger relationships and become the best version of themselves. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.